All right, Lions fans, we are back. It is the Overthinker. We have got just a video looking at some of the preseason news with the Detroit Lions. Definitely got some significant injuries going into the start of the season. Some of that is carryover from the end of last season with both of our starting safeties. Definitely going to miss some time at some point, especially Brian Branch looking like probably not going to play till October ish, but potentially maybe not. It does sound like he has been working with trainers on the sideline, but not cleared for a full return to practice. Obviously, I would expect still probably somewhere around October. I really think they want to be careful with that, especially with a safety and an Achilles injury. With that position, it is so important to be able to basically start sprinting anytime you change directions, and that puts a ton of load on the Achilles, and you just do not want to have a re-injury. And re-injuries are very common with Achilles, especially with players in the secondary and at running back. So I would just play that extremely safe. And then we also have Kirby Joseph with his knee injury. It is definitely looking like it's going to be a situation where he has to consistently play through pain if he's going to be out there. And it's just going to be how much pain can he deal with and what does he look like when he's out there. It is looking like it's really just like a degenerative knee thing where he doesn't have a lot of cartilage in his knee, and it is causing an extreme amount of pain when he plays. So that's just going to be really tough. I would expect Kirby Joseph to pretty much not practice much at all and just try to go on game days, and hopefully he can make it through the season. I do think he's going to try to gear up and go out there week one. We'll just have to see what he looks like. But yeah, for Lions fans, that's really a tough one. I'm really not sure if Kirby Joseph is ever going to really be that elite player again. I would say at this point, if that happens, it would be nothing short of a medical miracle. That really just does not happen with guys who have significant cartilage shortages in their knee. Usually that is a thing that's going to pretty much end your career. I'm just really happy that Kirby Joseph at least got paid. You know, he was able to secure generational wealth for him and his family. Obviously, that's great for him. He had a really nice career for the Lions. I mean, I hope it can continue, but there's really no guarantee outside of this season. I really just don't know what that's going to look like going forward and what he's going to look like this season. So yeah, with both of our starting safeties out, it is looking like Chuck Clark is definitely going to have one of those starting spots nailed down. Chuck Clark, who has played for a lot of teams. I think he was on the Steelers last year, but it does look like as far as practice and stuff, he has been the best guy out there, and he's going to be starting pretty much regardless of who comes back and when. I would expect Chuck Clark to be one of the starting safeties. And then you also have Avonte Maddox, they have listed as potentially one of the starters. And Thomas Harper is another guy who's going to be in that mix as well, who started some games last year, had a really bad game versus the Steelers, but he's a young player and obviously he has some talent. It is very possible that Thomas Harper emerges as the starter on the other side, but I would probably expect it to be Avonte Maddox from what Dan Campbell has said in his press conferences. It just sounds like he has the most confidence in Avonte Maddox right now to probably be a starter. So that's just the carryover that we have from last season. Now we have some other significant injuries right at the start here, right before preseason started. We have Isaiah Pacheco going down, looks like an MCL injury, an MCL strain, and he's probably going to miss maybe about a month. I really don't know who's going to play in the preseason. That's really interesting. They might have to sign like 2 more running backs before the preseason game because you don't want to go into a preseason game with 2 running backs. And Sion Vaki and Jacob Sailors are both kind of core special teamers for the Lions, so I really don't know if you want those guys to be getting all the carries, like 20 to 30 touches in a preseason game where they could obviously get hurt, and you don't want your core special teamers to get hurt in a meaningless game. I think Dan Campbell likes both of these guys as kind of special teams aces. So I would probably expect the Lions to sign somebody before the preseason game and maybe even 2 guys. And yeah, that's just my opinion. But also, when I've watched Sion Vaki, I just don't really see an NFL running back. I think he can be a great special teamer for us, for many years. But when he gets the ball, he just doesn't look like a guy who has much vision. and I don't really know if he has any upside as a running back. So when the season starts, if Isaiah Pacheco's not really ready to go, I really do think they're going to have somebody else kind of as that RB2, because you don't want to just go into a game with Jahmyr Gibbs and nobody as a backup. That's a terrible idea. Just don't do that. And I would say maybe trade for Tyler Algier or James Conner, because the Cardinals have 3 really good running backs right now. And obviously, James Conner and Tyler Algier are both not going to get as many carries as they were probably hoping, going into this past offseason. They were looking at maybe a 50-50 share, and then the Cardinals go ahead and draft a running back with their first round pick. So if you could get Tyler Algier or James Conner for like a 4th round pick, 3rd round pick, I would totally do it right now. I would love to have one of those 2 guys, and that's just kind of like a dream scenario. I don't know if that's going to happen, but maybe that would be really, really exciting. And we also have another huge injury with Cade Mays going down with a wrist injury. Looks like he's probably going to miss at least a month or so of football as well. And this is an interesting one because he has some kind of broken bone in his wrist. I was thinking about it, and like for offensive linemen, pretty much on every play, what you're doing is you're just jacking your hands into the chest of defensive linemen as they're coming at you, and that puts an extreme amount of pressure on your wrist. So that's the kind of injury that you really just can't come back too early. You have to be fully healed, in my opinion. So I would expect him to probably miss at least the first month of the regular season and maybe even more. But luckily, the Lions did sign Juice Scruggs as a potential guard or center backup. And it looks like they are moving Juice Scruggs to be probably the starting center, at least as the regular season starts. I would expect Juice Scruggs to be the guy out there starting. And in 2024, it looks like that kind of was where he played his best football by PFF. He had a 64.5 grade, which is slightly above average. And yeah, last year for the Texans, he did not look good at guard. In fact, he got benched on one of the worst offense lines we've seen in a while. He got benched at guard, and the Lions brought him in to be a kind of a reserve guard center. It's just incredibly lucky that we signed another potential guy who can play center and hopefully not be terrible. And yeah, if he can come in and just play solid football, that would be really incredible for the Lions. And I'm just hoping that happens, obviously. And yeah, it also looks like at left guard, it is Christian Mahogany probably winning that job. It was kind of an open competition, but now that Juice Scruggs has been moved to center, it pretty much is going to probably be Christian Mahogany playing left guard again. So we'll just have to see how that goes. He's had some pretty good games. He's had some bad games. It's just kind of like sometimes when he gets in a one-on-one pass blocking situation versus a quicker guy on the interior, the defensive line, that can be a huge problem because he just does not have lateral quickness. So, hopefully he's a little better this year. I think it's his 3rd season. It's very possible that he has a better year than last year, and it's very possible that he will be a good starter this year, and that's just kind of how offensive line works sometimes. Really, most of the growing pains for offensive line tends to occur in the first 3 years. And then we also have Jimmy Rolder going down with some kind of hamstring injury, going to be out for a period of time as well, but Dan Campbell again said probably not significant. So I would expect him to probably play sometime in September, hopefully, to get out there and, compete. He's mostly probably going to be competing with Derek Barnes, but Derek Barnes is listed as the starter at the moment. And also Malcolm Rodriguez. I'm really interested to see if they actually play Malcolm Rodriguez this time, because I've been thinking for years, like, man, I want to see Malcolm Rodriguez get some more playing time. So I guess this is a great opportunity for him. They also signed Devin White to come in and play a bit. Now, I would say Devin White's probably not as good as you think he is. Yes, he had an all-pro season, but he's just going to be an incredibly consistent player in the sense that he is always going to be boom or bust. You're going to see plays where he has incredible speed, maybe makes a break on a pass, and you're like, wow, that guy's incredible. But he's also going to have a lot of plays where he just runs himself out of coverage, and that's kind of why you don't want him in coverage a lot. He's best as a run and chase linebacker, and also as a blitzer, he's really good. He's a really good blitzer. Anytime he's blitzing, he's good at tracking down the quarterback and not letting him get away. He's extremely athletic. So yeah, I do expect the Lions to use him as a blitzer and kind of get creative with looping guys and stuff. And that could be really fun to see. Maybe he'll get, 5 to 10 sacks. And I do see that as a possibility, even as not a full-time starter. Then we also have the cornerback spot opposite of DJ Reed with the Lions releasing Terrion Arnold. We do have, it looks like Keith Abney is listed at the starter right now, and that's really good. That is good news. I was just hoping that he would win that job. Based on what I've seen with that game, I watched him play Baylor, and he looked really good. Looks like he's got some ball skills. He's not the tallest guy, but he is really competitive, and he's fast, of course. And I just really think he could be a good player for the Lions. And I'm just really hoping that the secondary is not terrible, because in the NFL, when you have a terrible secondary, offenses are going to find out who the bad players are, and they're going to just keep targeting them consistently over and over again until you make some kind of adjustment to not get them in one-on-one situations. And you see this all the time with so many teams where they have a guy out there who's just not starting caliber, and offenses keep going at him time and time again. Every time it's third down, you know who they're going at. But yeah, with Keith Abney potentially winning that job, that does give me confidence that he is hopefully as good as I thought he might be. And then you also have Nick Whiteside making some noise in training camp and practice as well. Dan Campbell said that he has been definitely competing for that spot and he wants to play. He's definitely looking like a guy who might play. I don't really know. It might be Keith Abney starting and Nick Whiteside as like the first guy off the bench if someone goes down on either side. And yeah, that could be really good. Nick Whiteside had a really good game last year. I think it was the Buccaneers game, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, he had a game where he just like all of a sudden came on the active roster and he's starting. And I'm like, wow, he played really well. So yeah, for an undrafted guy, that's really good for him to potentially get some starting reps. I don't know if he's going to be the starter, but even just being in the mix, that's really cool to see a guy, make his way up the depth chart like that and potentially have a chance at a starting gig, and it's also possible that Keith Abney gets moved into the slot. I do think he has the skill set to play there, and it is possible that maybe they move Keith Abney to the slot and Nick Whiteside at corner. And then when Brian Branch comes back, you could probably move Keith Abney back to outside corner, Brian Branch to safety, and then they might get really creative with like Chuck Clark and some other guys. So we'll just have to see how that works out. There are a lot of pieces here to potentially, put together some kind of secondary that could be good, but it is going to be a lot of trial and error, and we'll just have to see, obviously. So yeah, definitely a lot of injuries for the Lions, and it is kind of concerning, of course, going into the season with so many guys out, and a lot of these guys are going to be out for at least about a month, it sounds like. And yeah, that's all I got. Also, in other news, the Lions did bring in Trayvon Diggs for a workout at cornerback. So they are, kicking the tires on some other guys who could maybe potentially come in and be an upgrade over what they currently have and at least compete with Keith Abney there potentially. So they are not done, looking around the league and trying to find a guy who they think can come in and potentially be a starter, at least contribute in some capacity. So there could be more moves to make before the preseason game and definitely before the regular season. I think the Lions are very well probably going to sign a running back and maybe a cornerback or so. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got. First preseason game. I'm not expecting really any starters to be out there, but if you do see Nick Whiteside out there, or guys like Tyleik Williams, maybe Thomas Harper, that would be interesting to see, how they do. But other than that, I'm not really expecting any of these guys who are potential starters to be out there. So I do always watch the Lions preseason games. I don't really watch other preseason games, though. Once the regular season starts, though, I pretty much watch almost every football game. Like, I watch so much football. It's crazy. But for the preseason, I pretty much only watch Lions. And yeah, we'll have to see if there's anything interesting coming from the preseason games that kind of makes me feel like I should make a video. But I'm not really going to commit to that because I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, regardless, it's going to be nice to watch some Detroit Lions football. And yeah, that's all I have for you today. We'll catch you at some point in the next coming weeks, I guess, with another video of some sort. Thanks for watching.